the 223rd Block Talks, we speak with Pedro Birmann, co-founder and CEO of Quadra, who discusses the shifting crypto landscape and its opportunities. I'm your host, Mauricio Magaldi, and this is Block Drops, your weekly digest on blockchain for business. These news are not a form of endorsement, sponsorship, or encouragement for consumption, and are meant for educational purposes only. All right, everybody, I'm here with Pedro Birmann, who's going to tell us who he is and what he does with blockchain. Pedro, finally, welcome to Block Talks.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. I'm a big fan. So, Mauricio, obviously, like many people in the industry, I come from a TradFi background. I had spent about 17 years working for investment banks as a trader. I used to do front end rates, both here in the UK as well as in the United States. So I passed by places like NatWest Markets, Credit Suisse, Royal Bank of Scotland, etc. And then at some point around 2020, I got really, really interested in crypto. Being a trader, obviously, what attracted me was exactly some of the innovation in the space. I was fascinated about the tech. Don't get me wrong. I loved the reading the white paper of Bitcoin was enlightening. Reading the yellow paper of Ethereum was too complex for me. The white paper was good, but all of those things for me, obviously, as a trader. I wanted to be involved in crypto, and I started trading in my personal account. That personal account started making a lot of money. Then I thought, all right, let's get into crypto full time, and I wanted to start a hedge fund. And this is how everything started. I got into crypto to start a hedge fund, a quantitative fund into digital assets, and that led me to Quadra, which has nothing to do with managing money for other people, but building tech to support the industry that is growing very fast and is a passion of mine.
There's an interesting background. I also learned about crypto through Bitcoin, also through a trader. It's very very common start. But what was the first thing that really fascinated you? I mean, you talked about the tech and the potential, and then you talked about a little bit of making money. So, what was the thing that really drew your attention and ultimately gave birth to the idea of building Quadra?
The real story is that crypto was something that was knocking on my door for many, many years. And I failed to open this door on multiple occasions. And I live to regret this, right? To the point that the first time that I heard about Bitcoin was 2013. I was living in New York. My One of my siblings came to visit me. He works for for CloudWalk right now in Brazil. Uh, and we were in a restaurant, and he said to me, "Oh, do you mind going to Harlem with me? Because they have the first ATM machine to buy Bitcoin." And I kid you not, that was the first time I heard of about Bitcoin. Right, and then I went with him. I said, "Sure, let's go there. Let's see this." And then before I could say something, there was some absurd price. There was a bid offer on the screen. If you want to buy Bitcoin, was $300. If you want to sell, was $100. And I thought, this is ridiculous. This is absurd, right? Who's going to pay a spread of $200 here? Before I could say something to him, he was already sticking the dollar bills into the machine. And then he got a QR code, and he said, "That's it." And then I thought that he had been scammed. Right, because he put $300 there and walked away with a QR code. It made no sense, and then I asked him, "How does it work?" And then he gave me some explanation, and quite frankly, for me, it made no sense whatsoever. uh, and then that was it for me for crypto for another 4 years, and then comes 2017. I had a boss whom Quite frankly, I disagreed in so many aspects of my life, and he wouldn't stop talking about how much money he had made in crypto, and why Bitcoin would go to, I don't know, 100K at the time, right? So I was trading at 5K. He was like, "This is gonna." And then I kid you not, I said, "I'm gonna study this subject now, just to shut him up." Just to prove to him that he's wasting time and this is going to amount to nothing. I wanted to have knowledge to annihilate him on a discussion. All right. So this is exactly what it was. And then I go and I decide to read the white paper of Bitcoin. And then I see some elements of elegance and brilliance that I quite frankly hadn't seen in many places. That led me to start researching the people behind crypto and some of the names that were involved in crypto, such as Silvio Micali, for instance, that was an MIT professor. He won an award, the Turing Award, for his work in cryptography. And then that led me into learning about Vitalik and understanding about what he was building with Ethereum. And then I got fascinated about Vitalik himself. That led me to read Cryptopians from Laura Shin that tells the story of how Ethereum started and all the people that were involved. Charles from you have all of those characters, Joe Lubin, uh, and I felt fascinated about everything, and then I really wanted to be involved in crypto. That's how it started. Obviously, I lacked the I like to divide certain things in crypto in simple terms, right? There is hard infrastructure and there is soft infrastructure that will power this whole ecosystem, right? The hard infrastructure is what has been being built in the past 15 16 years. I'm talking about building Ethereum, building Bitcoin, the blockchains, or some of the newer blockchains that are coming along. This is for me is hard infrastructure, is the layer, the settlement layer, the ledger, and then there is the soft infrastructure. The soft infrastructure is doesn't necessarily mean that it's less important, but is needed if we want to onboard the institutional wave of clients that are going to be interacting in crypto. This is what I think that we are building in Quadra is the soft infrastructure. What are we building here at Quadra? We have essentially a company that builds a vertically integrated tech stack that enables any institution to enter crypto and offer services in crypto or trade crypto or do anything that they want to do in crypto with their clients. So we are a product oriented company. We have three products. We have Quadra Trades, that is a unified platform that has everything that an institutional trading firm requires to navigate the space. We offer algorithms for execution, portfolio management solutions, collateral management solutions, risk management solutions. Then we have CoinMatch, that's an RFQ platform that enables these institutions to actually RFQ large block trades. And then we have Quadra Prime. Quadra Prime powers the services offered by prime brokers, banks, custodians that are now offering trading services. They use Quadra Prime that connects to multiple liquidity providers, aggregates that liquidity into a single order book, for instance. They are able to add spreads or tiering for their clients and then stream a single order book to their clients, and then we handle everything on the background. So this is what we are doing right now, and I became incredibly passionate about the tech sides, which wasn't something that I used to think too much when I was a trader. But now that I have, both of these hats, if you will. Of course, I'm not a coder myself. I have a team that supports me on this, but I now have a much better understanding of what it is to build something of value and to build a high, in tech firm, and how we can support those institutional clients. So this is why I'm here now, and why I'm so passionate about crypto.
What I like about this type of entrepreneur is that they've been through the pain of being on, say, the other side, and then they take matters in their own hands and they're like, okay, this is not good enough for me. I'm gonna just go and fix it. And there's a case to be made about the most successful people that have created things. They were so passionate about the problem that they made a point of bringing it a solution. And I think that this kind of sort of how you outline your journey down to Quadra. Now, I do have to ask. You and I met about 2 3 years ago, and the world we operated in crypto 2 or 3 years ago was dramatically different than the world we're operating today, both because the tech evolved, but also the markets evolved. And maybe not less important than that, the regulations are evolving. And I usually make the joke that I did not see myself as someone excited about regulatory progression, but it turns out that in this day and age, you kind of have to be. What are the most dramatic changes that you feel are here or are coming down the pipe in the regulatory landscape that will enable Quadra to serve increasingly more people, because now there is some degree of comfort that people can actually touch these asset classes?
This is a great point. It's exactly like when we met 3 years ago. I think that before we get into the regulatory stuff, I think that was a situation where 3 years ago, if you were an investment advisor talking about crypto or recommending crypto as part of a portfolio, you were probably risking your career. And today, the change is, if you are an investment advisor and you are not recommending crypto to be part of that portfolio, you are now risking your career, right? So things have changed dramatically, right? And obviously, we do need to say this. This change happens with the change in administration in the United States, right? With the Biden administration, we had a government that was very antagonistic towards crypto. We had the weaponization of the regulatory agencies against crypto, that was driving a lot of the innovation outside of the United States into offshore markets. Um, it was a change that it was like night to day, right? When the Trump administration came on board, right, and decided to be a pro crypto and make crypto more accessible. And then that came slightly before all of this came the approval of the ETFs, and then we saw a massive wave um, um, of flows into the ETFs and all of those things. Then there you started having a shift that came from the corporate world, right? The investment world, that was BlackRock saying, we are behind this. We want to distribute this asset to the masses. So that started there, and then you had the administration, and then now what you're having is a wave of still small steps, but steps in the right direction in terms of clarity. Now people know that they can, for instance, build companies around crypto. It doesn't necessarily need to be trading services. It can be building payment rails. It can be, I'm going to be building point of sale that accepts crypto payments, cross-border payments, all of those things. So when people tell me things like, "Oh, it's 15 years and I still can't pay my Starbucks coffee with Bitcoin," of course you can't yet, because for years the U.S. would go after anyone trying to build anything like this, and not only the U.S., all of the governments of the developed world. Um, this has ended, folks, and people are investing dramatically on this, and they are building services. You're going to have all of these things coming live very, very soon. Now, when it comes to trading services, you are going to have the inclusion of digital assets in pension accounts, self-traded pension accounts, right? In the UK, we have the ISA. In the United States, I still have my 401k, which now I can allocate some of it into ETFs. So by definition, by being able to do these things, we are going to have to enable a wave of institutions that are going to support this, and they are going to be able to trade on this risk. These are what institutions are doing. I'm going to buy this risk and sell this risk. I'm going to enable all of these new investors to add crypto to their portfolios, and I'm going to have to do this. Now, here's the challenge, Mauricio. The challenge is that the entire infrastructure in crypto was built for the retail crowds, right? Even like I love the innovation with Uniswap, for instance, right? But if you think that the institution is going to go there and set my slippage at 5 basis points and hit and wait 5 seconds, whatever it is to transact, they are not used to that. Right? Or if they are going to go to a major exchange, it can be the biggest exchange in town. um, the Dealing with the central limit order books of those exchanges, it's not really ready for that kind of flow, right? The systems are not ready. I'll give you an example. The most of the crypto exchanges, they offer API connectivity, either REST or WebSockets. The entire financial world in TradFi uses Fix, right? So even basic things like this need to be overcome, right? So the regulatory changes are coming. You're going to see, you have the MiCA regulation, you have the FCA in the UK that is running a series of workshops with the industry participants. You have in the United States the SEC that has become incredibly supportive of digital assets. You're going to have similar moves across the board, across the globe. Now is a race where no nation can afford to be left behind. What we need to do now is to make sure that this new wave of institutional firms that is going to invest heavily on this, they are able to interact with this tech that's so amazing and has so much potential, and could be transformative in many, many, many ways.
How do you reconcile? And I think I've been more and more drilling into this dilemma, maybe a dilemma. I don't know if it's a dilemma, but a dilemma. How do you reconcile the self sovereignty in digital ownership proposed by the Bitcoin white paper in the early crypto days, in which network effects would push value to the edges and empower the individuals, and the whole cypherpunk ethos that came with it, to this reconfiguration of the markets around the foundational technologies of blockchain for institutional adoption? Because Bitcoin emerged in the wake of the global financial crisis in 2008. I was there, it wasn't fun.
I was there too. It wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun. And it emerged as a response to the very financial system that is now embracing crypto to a large extent. And that is maybe repurposing, and that's a choice word, the purpose of that ethos to maybe replicate the same um, behaviors that led to the then origin of Bitcoin in '08. So, how do you, as a builder in the space, building in that infrastructure for institutions, how do you reconcile those two realities in how you handle the culture of Quadra, the choice of clients, the engagement with the regulators? What is your take on this 15-year arc of the crypto ethos?
I think that this is a great point, and I think that everyone that has been, well, you've been in crypto far longer than me, um, um, and you know that everything seems to have changed. And at the same time, how do I reconcile? I like to think about when I started um, on a personal level. I started with an idea that I would do something totally different from what I'm doing today, right? And there was a natural um, evolution. You pivot so many times and you change your opinion, you mature, you end up going to different directions. There is a bunch of forces pulling and pushing that are out of your control. Now, I reconcile the original idea of Bitcoin as being exactly that. It was a novel, brilliant idea, but that was the inception of what Satoshi or whomever or whatever group of people were behind it. They had it, but the thing took a life of its own. And it became like an organism that grew and has its own direction, if you will, right? And everything got changed and it mutated and it became something that has a potentially a different purpose than what it had before. So for the people that are I have tremendous sympathy for the people that want to see that vision live through. But honestly, on a personal level, I think that the ship has sailed. I think that Bitcoin itself has become something totally different. And what I hope that doesn't happen on a personal level as well is that Wall Street is undeniably, and it's impossible to stop it. It's coming for crypto, and it's going to be in crypto. I just hope uh, that we are able to continue to innovate. We are able to reduce some of this some of this intermediation that's not necessary in many cases, that we are able to bring value to people by having this whole new rails that the financial system, and not only financial system, any way of transmitting information can happen in a fully decentralized fashion, right? And I hope that we can retain this, and we are able to create value for society, right? If you think, I like to think about the philosophical. I don't even know if it's philosophical or not, right? But Mauricio, when was the last time that there was serious innovation in payments, right? Cross-border payments, or there was none because the barriers to entry were so big. Um, uh, it was impossible to create anything, any innovation related to payments, right, or anything. And then, seriously, the crypto community created a whole new parallel system that happens to be superior. And then you had something that flourished there. Of course, we are still in the early days. What is the most successful application of crypto? Is stablecoin, right?
Two of them, by the way.
Two of them, yeah. And but you could have so many other things, right? Think about obviously, I like to think about things like Imagine I have self custody of my stocks, tokenized stocks on my wallet. I go to Aave, I immediately can go there and borrow some money against it. Or I have my tokenized ISA accounts. I don't know for the listeners that are not in the UK, ISA is like a savings account that the UK has. I have a tokenized version of that I can place in a protocol as a collateral for a loan, right? Imagine all of those things, right? Or the fact that I would disintermediate a bunch of people that is in this value chain that are making access to certain products very expensive and very limited to the masses. And then you have an opportunity to reinvent all of this, redistribute all of this. And my fear is that when Wall Street comes with everything, instead of redistributing, instead of recreating, instead of reimagining how things could be done better, we are going to be trying to replicate what is in TradFi in crypto, right? That's why I'm not a big fan when you have other startups that are trying to build infrastructure akin to crypto to TradFi I'm doing this, but I'm maintaining the flexibility in crypto. But now when people come like every transaction in crypto should be cleared through a clearinghouse in crypto. I personally don't know if that is for the best, right? Because I have a public ledger now. Do I need a DTCC for crypto if I have a blockchain? I don't know. Do I need it? Do I need this intermediary getting a little cut in every single thing that I try to do? Probably not, right? So my fear is that we end up making just another product, and we never live up to the potential, right? This is my fear.
Your point resonates with me in one very particular angle, which is risk management. So remember that '08 was, um, by and large, determined by the lack of risk management in very particular ways in the underlying assets that made up the CDSs and the CDOs. And the ability to bundle and rebundle assets, staked or not, that crypto now allows us to do is orders of magnitude faster and more complicated than that ever was. So if we can't manage the risk of the bundling and unbundling of assets as we tokenize them and we make them more sophisticated, more programmable, if you will, then we're going to see ourselves in the very same position that originated this industry. So, and now we can't ignore it because we know what the consequences are, and we know where the pitfalls are, and we know how technologies can be used to prevent that. So crypto also serves itself well in that capacity for risk management because the data is abundant, it's timely, right? So I think that we have no right to screw this up, and replicate what gave birth to the industry in the first place. So I think I'm with you there. Now, in terms of the industry itself, what is the one thing, the thing that if we don't fix right now, we're going to see ourselves going back to square one in 15, 20 years? What is that one thing and why?
I think that what keeps me awake at night, right? There's a bunch of things that are super fun in crypto. Trading with 100x leverage can be fun, right? The leverage in the system can be fun sometimes. But is this a net positive? Um, 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 in some cases, potentially, but in many other cases, is probably not, right? So I think that the market gradually is waking up to this, right? And you are moving in the right direction, or I thought that we were moving in the right direction until I started seeing the proliferation of digital asset treasury companies as well, right? That is another layer that could have catastrophic consequences for investors in general, right? So obviously, the fear is that something goes incredibly wrong, and then you have a large number of retail investors that are harmed, and this triggers an outcry to politicians and regulatory bodies. And then you would have a group of people that has already a limited understanding of the potential of this technology, passing legislation that would make things very, very hard to do, right? Um, so for me, I think that we need to get to a point where we figure out how to separate the casino crazy stuff to the value added stuff, right? Personally, I have no problems with having both. But at the same time, I know that when things go wrong, and invariably they will go wrong, um, um, that's pretty scary, right? And it could have a massive impact on us. So I think I think a lot about strategy, for instance, right? As one of the largest Bitcoin holders, um, do I feel okay about that? Probably not. Right? Do I like a single entity accumulating so much Bitcoin? It doesn't sit, nicely with me. But these are the things that keep me awake at night, right? Because if one of these things go wrong, it would probably trigger a wave of over-regulation that would impact innovation and all of those things.
Right. So as a builder, building in an industry that never sleeps because the blockchains work 24/7, 365, a block is always getting produced. How do you keep yourself healthy and sane working in crypto?
Well, don't ask my wife or my kids about this, because they are going to give you a very different answer. uh, what do they say? That 1 year in crypto is like 7 years in regular life?
Dog ears.
Dog years. I was going to say that can be a blessing, but I can't think of any time in my life that was a blessing to have a 24/7 market that doesn't stop. Um, I think that it takes time for people to adjust, and it's difficult. It's difficult because think about the challenges, right? We are a startup, and our clients are live 24/7, right? So this comes with a lot of challenges. You need to be connected the whole time. You need to offer support the whole time. Even basic things like deploying software becomes challenging, right? That's why I always find amazing when the Ethereum guys, they roll something out seamlessly, flawlessly, and major updates. uh, it's fantastic, but the reality is you push something in production on a day that you think is going to be quiet, and then there is always someone that is there, right? So it comes with all the challenges. I think that the interesting thing, I think that is not crypto that's going to go 5 days a week, is obviously TradFi that's coming to be 24/7. And I think that's going to have a whole re-education phase where people are going to be learning to deal with this. On a personal level, I try to have my time. You need to disconnect sometimes. Obviously, it's difficult, especially when you have Trump tweeting at the most absurd hours on the weekends, and the only market that's open is crypto. So guess what? We are always there. Um, but yeah, it's difficult, Mauricio. It's not straightforward. It does have an impact on your personal life sometimes. You do need to make an effort, though, right? You need to make an effort to make time for the things that you that are important. Sometimes you need to disconnect from the digital world and go touch grass, as they say.
Or touch a barbell as some weirdos do over the weekend. But yeah.
Well, I used to do that as well, and then a bad injury, my friends, a bad injury, a pinched sciatic nerve. I can never do any deadlifts like you, but I'm very impressed. Keep on doing that. You are an inspiration to me.
I hope I stay healthy. In terms of onboarding your TradFi folks that you've worked with in the past, when there's a new Bitcoin all-time high, and they call you, Pedro, I'm now excited about this Bitcoin thing you've been doing for so many years. One, does it happen? And when it does, what's your usual go-to welcome kit for these people?
It happens more often than you can imagine, where you have this people coming back from the ashes anytime that there is an all-time high, right? And it's difficult because generally what they want to know is how do I get started in the space? And then occasionally you do have people that are very nice that are actually running businesses and they want to enter the market and then they end up becoming a client. That's great. That's fantastic. That's easy for us to do, right? To explain what we are doing. But the people that are contacting you because Bitcoin is on the news, is in every segment of Bloomberg, and just hit a new all-time high, and they want to know, is this the time to get into this? And then I feel this sense of I am a massive bullish person, and I have most of my net worth invested in digital assets, and I'm a massive holder of digital assets. But I've been here for a number of years. I've been through 2017. I've been through 2022. I've seen some horror things. Yeah, long term, I think that is you have lots of potential, but I cannot bring myself to recommend someone to say, yeah, go invest, getting into crypto right now, because you never know when it's going to be the next 30% correction, right? So these conversations, they happen very often. I like the ones that are people, look, we are now expanding into digital assets. Can you help me get started? And then that's perfect. But I like a little bit less the random work colleague that you haven't spoken in 2 years that sends you a message: "Is this the time to buy Bitcoin?" And then I don't have much time for that. I must admit.
I heard someone the other day echo the phrase from Michael Saylor: "People will get Bitcoin at the price that they deserve," and I think it's ironic, but it's also true because the longer you study this, the longer you dedicate yourself to the industry, the more asymmetrical the opportunities become. And I'm not talking about opportunities to make money, which is obviously very um, crypto like current over financialization days of this new internet, but to build stuff, to be creative, to engage with what arguably are some of the brightest minds of our generation, and build cool shit. And I think that's kind of what I think when people, especially because I do the show, and there's an educational angle to this. I think I go back all the time to, yes, money is great, making money is great, but building cool shit is greater. That's the focus.
It's phenomenal. But we are on a secular trend where two very transformative um, technologies are about to intersect, right? Right, and you have AI and agentic AI that's going to be transformative in so many ways. And then I'm like thinking, how are all of these AIs going to interact with humans and get humans to do what they need them to do? Right? There will be a point that they may not require us at all, but there will be a big period of time that we are going to be interacting with AI on so many levels. And believe me, the financial system as is today is not compatible with the autonomy and the global scale that AI will have to perform tasks on a global scale, and they are going to require to interact with human beings in multiple different places. And the most exciting thing that could be happening is exactly what has been built in crypto. a fully decentralized network of computers where people can exchange value and information. And I think that people totally underestimate this whole thing, right? So if I have an AI agent that wants me to perform a task, whatever it is, probably is going to be paying me with some sort of crypto for that service, and is going to be selling services or transacting with information in sending crypto to each other, like the AI agents interacting with each other. And I think that people totally underestimate this. There is no other way that they would do this. Personally, I cannot conceive being done in a different way. So I think that we are is something that's so powerful, so transformative. You have these two things that are supportive of each other. I think that people are just underestimating both of those things, right? And I think that the potential is phenomenal to build stuff on top of this, to do research, to create, to build companies. Like the barriers to entry now to build a company that offers any type of service are much lower, right? And I think that people should maximize this as much as they can.
We're so overwhelmed by technology. I think the that quote from Bill Gates that most of us overestimate what tech can do in a year, but underestimate what it can do in 100 years, right? So I think that's kind of where we sit right now, and as I always say, it is certainly a privilege. Now we're about time here, but how can people learn more about you, about Quadra, and what you guys do?
People can visit our website, Quadra.trades, and they can have access to all of our products. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, X, I should say. And I would be delighted to connect with people.
Awesome, Pedro. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and looking forward to our next brekkie somewhere in the city. Be great.
Maybe let's go for a workout session. I think that's we can do this. We do a light version. I cannot keep up with you, my friends. All right, it was a pleasure. I must say, I love your show. Thank you very much for having me here. And whatever you need, just give us a shout.
Awesome. Thanks. Catch us online. We're on Instagram at BlockDropsPodcast, on Twitter at BlockDropsPod or ZeroX Mauricio. We're on Lens at blockdrops.lens. We have a newsletter on LinkedIn. Write to us at blockdropspodcast@gmail.com, and you can listen to the Blockdrops podcast at Spotify, iColab, Faberbun Tech, and all of the other major streaming platforms. Yay! Shout out to Pedro for trusting us with his story and sharing so many interesting takes and insights from the industry. Also, shout out to Giba Albuquerque for making this conversation possible. Don't forget to leave the rating on your favorite player and check out the merch store at blockdropspodcast.xyz. This is all for today. Stay rare, stay weird, LFJ.